All right, hello here again. We're going to have chapter 8. Go ahead and get my screenshot here. That's not what I want. Go away. And go away. Here we are. All right, chapter 8, Thinking and Intelligence. Take this from the beginning. So Thinking and Intelligence, chapter 8. Already said that. So a few things. Again, definitional. Thinking is a mental representation of mental manipulation of representations of information. Kind of a lot to say there. Almost sounds like a rap song or something, but it's not. So mental manipulation of representation of information, that's what thinking is. Cognition is the mental activity. Okay, it's just what's going on in your brain. It's not all, cognition isn't necessarily all conscious. We have unconscious cognitions as well. You're thinking and the understanding that it results from thinking. So first off, we have concepts of, let's see what, first off we have actually analogous and symbolic representation. Sorry, let me get this correct here. See if I get my pen to work. Yay. So analogous is the same physical characteristics, and symbolic is abstract, so like letters and whatnot. So here, that's analogous. Basically, it is a violin, and that's the abstract. Symbolic, it's the word violin. Now, you'll notice that you can't really look at that without hearing the word violin. You can't really look at that without hearing violin. You hear it too. Here you'll hear the word violin, probably have memories of violins playing, that kind of thing. And to sort of continue with that, you can't really have one. When you hear the symbolic cow, you hear it again. That's the phonological loop, right, that we had. You hear phonological loop, and that will be, and you'll see a cow too. You can't just have one. And this one, you see that, and you think bird, and you'll have various memories of birds, et cetera, that goes through one. So you really don't have just one, especially as humans. Mental maps. Let's see. We have mental maps rely on symbolic and analog. So which is farther west? I don't think I have that one. Yeah, they have which is farther west, San Diego or Reno. We will generally think of, this is actually figure 8.2, page 291 in your textbook. It seems like San Diego should be farther west, right? Because it's on the coast. It's on the west coast, and things on coasts tend to be farther west or east than things that aren't on coasts. But California kind of curves in, kind of like that, goes down to Mexico. So here's San Diego. Where's Reno? Is over here. It's actually farther west than San Francisco. When I first moved to Helena, I was asked to go see someone at the jail. I come up here. So this is your Salt Lake on the slide. There we go. Go back to here. At the jail, and I asked where the jail was, and they said it was across from the Myrna Loy. And I just moved here. So where's the Myrna Loy? Well, it's across from the jail. I had no cognitive map of the place at all, so it did me no good whatsoever. So they explained to me, as you're going from the hospital downtown, once you start going down down the hill, back up, you've gone too far. I knew that. I had a cognitive map of Broadway. So those are cognitive maps. Again, you could probably sit where you are and imagine yourself in a store. We've talked about this, I think, already, but I just like cognitive maps. Get in the store, or how about a parking lot of Costco. If you go to Costco, doesn't matter where in the parking lot. Excuse me. You'll probably find yourself going around the parking lot, as a matter of fact, at various spots. So that's a cognitive map. You can actually look around the parking lot. So categories, groupings. We put things into groups. We do this all the time. We have groupings of things. And so categorization is what this is called when you can't put things into groups. Concept, groups of categories of objects, events related around common themes. So musical instruments, string instruments. This can be almost anything though. Birds that swim. There's probably not too many of those. Birds that don't fly, and all this sort of stuff is our categories. And they're kind of fun concepts. You can get some pretty bizarre ones if you try. Things that are blue, things that dance. So all this sort of stuff, you can get these larger categories. You have a defining attribute. That's one thing that you have to have. In order to be a bird, you probably have to have feathers. I don't think there's any featherless birds. You probably have to have beaks. I don't know if there's any. I know they can make chickens with teeth, but for the most part, birds don't have teeth. So that's the idea. It doesn't have to be flying though, because there's a lot of birds that don't fly. Ostriches, emus, things of that sort. No, bachelor. That's an unmarried man. But when you think about that, so it's an unmarried man. If a man was divorced, does he become a bachelor again, or is he just a divorcee? Well, it's kind of like a bachelor again, but really, bachelors has never been married. And if your person's, if their spouse died, that would be they'd be a widower. So no, that's not a bachelor. But they also have to be of a certain age, right? You have to be of a breeding age, if you will. Because if you're like 10 years old and a bachelor, that's just kind of gross. So, where does a chair become a stool? Stools don't have backs unless it's a bar stool, or it kind of does. Stools are generally higher. Anyway, those are concepts and defining attributes. Prototype versus exemplar. Prototype is basically when you think of something, it's like the thing that comes to mind. Excuse me, the thing that comes to mind. So it doesn't have to be a great example, but a stringed instrument, most people think guitar, think violin, because we had a violin just a couple of slides ago. And then, so that'll come to mind. Very few people will think of a balalaika. Balalaika is a Russian guitar. They're kind of cool. My roommate in college had a bass balalaika. It was like this big thing. It was cool. Exemplar is examples, just examples of it. So this is an example of a fish. This is an example of a stringed instrument. All that sort of stuff will be examples. Being dung. So a friend of mine, we talk regularly about the COVID. We've reached over 300,000 deaths today, basically since April. So all are examples. Here we are, things that are played, things that make music, things that are blown into, has 4 strings. So this is specific knowledge and shared knowledge. But again, we can go on about this. I think it's kind of fun. What kind of categories, like things, things you can read. You can read books. I'm reading a water bottle, which is the one I had earlier. I can read, I can read the signs of the times, a little bit more abstract. So anyway. And here's one. Yeah, so characteristics of oranges, grapes, tomatoes, and olives. They're all seeds and pits. Yeah, they all have that. They're all edible. Tomatoes aren't generally sweet. Olives aren't generally sweet either. So categories here, different things. And what the heck is that? It's a pig. Actually, it's kind of like a reggae pig, kind of a Rasta pig. And so it's a Mangalitsa pig. Mangalitsa pig. Kind of cute. And here's some classes, threats. Low threat animals. So a wolf, I guess, is high threat. A mountain lion. Oop, come back. Oh no! Did I take away my? Where'd my thing go here? Give me back my pen. A lion. Rabbits are generally not a threat unless you are into the Monty Python, the Holy Grail. Search for the Holy Grail. It's the most foul of rodents. If anybody knows the reference, you gain points. And there's some safe reptiles. The turtle being fairly safe, although there's some snapping turtles that'll bite your hand off, so that's not exactly right. And of course, a frog is a very safe reptile, given it's an amphibian. It's an amphibian, so it's not a reptile at all. I don't know why they have it in there. It's one of these things like, psychologists, go back to taxonomy, please. Safe bugs, butterflies, ladybugs are generally safe. I would argue that arachnids, which these are both arachnids, are not bugs. It's been argued one way or the other in class, but I think bugs are insects. That's my categorization. I would not put arachnids in the same category as bugs, but you can. Exoskeleton, I guess. Stereotypes. We have a lot of different stereotypes. I think we get to, yeah, here we are. Stereotype threat comes up a little bit more. So cognitive schemas, fast, easy process about people based on the membership in supergroups. Got to be careful with that, obviously. Because people aren't that category. We have a lot in common, and we have nothing in common. That's kind of a good summary of human behavior. Scripts, what do we do? Gender roles are scripts. Going to movies, scripts, influenced by upbringing, obviously. Scripts, and schemas. Okay, this is we go through life with certain expectations, and that's just exactly what we do. Okay, let's see. Scripts. Oh, so here's a good point, actually. If schemas and scripts potentially problematic, this is 295. Why do they persist? They usually work well. Shortcuts minimize the amount of attention required to navigate familiar environments. We don't have to worry about some things. We just can kind of get through them very quickly. So reasoning, excuse me. This is going next one, problem solving. We use information. Is it a reasonable thing to do? Okay, is it a reasonable thing to make a certain kind of a choice? Make the best choice among several other options and find a way around an obstacle to reach a goal. That's problem solving. So deductive and inductive reasoning. You have I actually have a better one for this. Where are we here? Yeah, so this was actually I kept this is another one that I kind of kept in. Thing came up this last semester in one of my courses about deductive and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning in science. Okay, let's do science. Deductive reasoning, you have a general theory that's been supported. You then take that and deduce it down to the person in front of you. So that'd be kind of a good way of thinking about it. So you have, say you have all the ideas of psychotherapy, medications, and whatnot, and you have this person in front of you. I could take that reasoning and say this medication, this type of psychotherapy may work for this person in front of me. As opposed to inductive, which is where you have one sample of something and then you generalize it to say everything is that way. No, don't do that. No, that's bad, very bad. So anyway. People who live in Paris, Joe loves from coffee. Let's forget that one. So heuristics. Heuristics. There's various types of heuristics. Normative models. Where are we here? Yeah, normative models. Rules of thumb. Reduce the amount of thinking is necessary. Just like things on coasts should be farther west, assuming west coast, than things not on the coast. So. Normative, we tend to make optimal decision. We probably don't actually do that. We have misrepresentations. Let's see, where are we going to get to the utility theory? Coming up. Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure that we've matched the textbook, which we do. Algorithm. Let's see. Yeah, I think I need a little bit more heuristics here. So the textbook talks a little bit more about, I need to add some more through this, confirmation bias and hindsight bias. I think those are coming up. Confirmation bias is just confirm what actually would happen to you. You ignore things that aren't part of what you think it should be. And hindsight bias is you look backwards and say, this is how it always has been. Algorithm, whereas heuristics are kind of general rules of thumb. Algorithms that if you do this, you will get that. Okay, that's like mathematics and stuff of that as an algorithm. So a couple of things here. Anchoring. Anchoring is a reference point decision making. In making judgments, people rely on the first piece of information they encounter or information that comes quickly to mind. How many people are there in Chicago, as the textbook uses? Population is more or less than 200,000. They'll probably say that more or less than 5 million, that kind of idea. So it gives you kind of a starting point. You tend to get stuck around that. Framing. Framing, how you put things. How do I have here? Tendency to emphasize, let's see, where are we? Where information is presented can also alter people's perception of it. Now, that's the framing, how it gets presented. I have a 70% chance of passing or 30% chance of failing. People want to have the passing, even though it's exactly the same as how you face it. Then the prospect theory, loss aversion. This is where losses feel worse than gains feel good. So it's harder to lose stuff. It's harder on you to lose stuff than it is to gain stuff. So here's that. This is figure 8.13 in your textbook. So it feels really sucks to lose a bunch of money. and to gain $1,000. That's pretty cool. I mean, you probably have had this. You have times that you lost $20 and it feels like, whatever, however amount, it feels like, oh my God, I just lost $20. It sucks. But then if you find $20 on the ground, I found $1 the other day. I was pretty happy about that, but that doesn't feel quite as good as losing $20. So this is the idea. Lots of different types of heuristics. Availability, the one that most easily comes to mind. That's lots of different kinds. There's with textbook. I'm going to try to stick with the textbook more. This is going to be a thing. If industrial countries are more farmers or more librarians, okay, it seems like they're probably more farmers. But if you don't live in like agricultural, probably say librarians. So in fact, there are many more farmers and librarians in most industrialized countries. That makes sense, really. I mean, yeah. So, in representation, placing a person or object in a category that the person is similar to. It's kind of like stereotypes in a way, right? But we don't. It's more like. So yeah, here. Actually, this is kind of funny in the textbook. They have Helena, which is us, is an intelligent, ambitious, and scientifically minded. She enjoys working on mathematical puzzles, talking to other people, reading and gardening. Was she a cognitive psychologist or a postal worker? Most would say she sounds more like a psychologist, but she could just as well be a postal worker. There's a lot more postal workers than there are cognitive psychologists. That's the base rate. Okay, there's more postal workers than there are cognitive psychologists. Even rare cognitive psychologists named Helena, although there probably are cognitive psychologists who live in Helena. So this is kind of a fun one. This is how availability heuristic. Is R more common in the first letter in a word or the third letter? We can come up with a lot of R letters, just off the top of our head. It starts with R, that's easier, but come with the third letter is kind of harder. But it's interesting. Look at all the words in the sentence here. Okay, none of them have an R on the first. 1, 2, 3 have an R as the third letter. And if you can't, TH is just one phoneme. That one kind of does too. TH should just be one word, one letter. TH should not go to. This is a whole different thing. Should just be one letter. Irritates me. So if you count phonemes, which we should, there'll be 4 R words there. So we tend to have our emotions as part of our decision maker. It's another sort of issue here. If we have an emotional response to it, we tend to, if we have too much emotions, we use that for judging now. Somatic markers, bodily reactions from emotional evaluations. You get sick to your stomach, you get butterflies, you have headaches, you get like you're choking up, that sort of idea. And affective forecasting, the affective heuristic, how we'll feel about things in the future. Turns out, most things don't affect us nearly as much as we think they're going to affect us. Which is, we're not very good at our affective forecasting. This is a Dan Gilbert talk on TED. You can watch it if you want to. It doesn't make sense for me to play TED Talks on these lectures because it's like, well, that's just wasting time. It's a good TED Talk. He is a little bit over the top on his presentation, but it's a really good TED Talk. And here's, what is this an example of? Faulty affective forecasting. If they Manchester won, this is how they feel there would be happiness, or Chelsea would be sad. But after the event, it really wasn't that big of a deal. And they're won some kind of football conference. I'm assuming it's football. Yeah, football, not soccer. It's football. Yeah, keep moving right along. Organization of sub-goals. This is how you solve problems. So you want to make sure, let's see. The Tower of Hanoi. These are some of these funky ones that they have. But the new restaurant open up the moon. It's great in food, but no atmosphere. So restructuring the problem, changing representations. These are all different ones in here. I'm not sure if I really want to, how much I want to elaborate on those. I don't think I do. Mental sets, though. These ones I think I do want to have. They have good representations of insight and whatnot. So insight, sudden realization of a solution. They have a good picture of that coming up. It's kind of a fun picture. Restructuring. Think of a new way about a problem that aids the solution. This is something that I've been considering with suicide problem they have in Montana. We're not doing much for it, actually, because the rates are still continuing to go up. But maybe if we have a new way of thinking about it somehow, that might help. May help intervene with this process. Mental sets. The one I use for this one is with the public health, with the mental health system in Montana, for example. They tend to think that we should decrease the high levels of care, State Hospital, Montana Developmental Center, et cetera, and somehow magically the community treatment will be increased. But really, they should increase the community treatment first, and then they won't have a need for the higher level. Now, that's been a mental set for quite some time. In functional fixedness, you can just only do one thing with whatever it is. You can't. Jackie Chan has everything as a weapon for a Jackie Chan movie. If you've ever watched a Jackie Chan movie. And here's that tower, which is funky. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that. So it seemed like it'd be like the most. I can see how they kind of move it back and forth, but it'd be a funny thing to do. And here, something like that. Actually, I didn't draw that very good, did I? Pretty close. This is. I'm going to erase everything on the slide. Let's see. So it has to go this way, this way, this way, and this way. There we go. That's a little bit better. Think outside the box, unless you're a cat. Same idea here. Let's not worry about that. Uses for duct tape. Has anybody actually ever used duct tape to tape ducks? I don't think so, actually. They use it for funky clothes. Funny looking people, I think, but apparently this is something that you can do. And here's a classic Dunker's candle problem. How do you make a candle holder out of all that kind of stuff? You do that. You go from there to that. Ta-da, you have a candle holder. Or you can go to like Bed Bath & Beyond and buy a candle holder. It's just not that hard. Where's the, yeah. So here's sudden insight, algorithm, heuristics, working backwards. These are just, again, sort of more ways of decision making. And the monkeys figured out how to get to banana. Just stack things up. I guess they're actually chimpanzees, they're not monkeys. And here's this gal. Yeah, how's she going to reach that other rope? Oh my goodness, how's she going to do that? She can't just slide her hand down that rope a little bit more, which will give her just enough to get over there. No, she can put the little little pliers on that and swing it. Woohoo! That's what you do. Seems a odd way of getting that rope, but you know, that's we do what you need to do. So, there's a paradox of choice. Yeah, there's a paradox of choice. That if we have too many choices, we're not happy. Okay, we're frustrated, unsatisfied, debilitating at times because it's just too much. Costco knows this, right? In Costco, you don't have that many choices. You have this one or that, or you have this brand or Kirkland, and that's pretty much it. Because they know people who have too many choices are not that happy. Psychological reactance. We do exactly what's forbidden us. We want to do this. There's a sign at Helena College once that it was at a janitor's door. Said, "Please do not lean against the door." I would never even consider leaning against that door unless they had that sign. They did have that sign, so it's like, I want to lean against the door. You can't tell me not to lean against the door. So don't look at your clock. Don't look at your cell phone right now. Don't look at your phone. Probably most of you took a glance at your phone. I know I did. It's just right there. Satisficers versus maximizers. Satisficers, it's just there's a good enough choice. You don't necessarily need to have the right choice. It's just this will work. Maximizers, you have to have the best possible choice. And maximizers tend to be less happy than satisficers because they're not satisfied. They do have some things. Approach the decision how to be a satisficer is because satisficers tend to be kind of happier. There's on page 309 and 310 have 4 different things you can do to help with you. So this is there's just too much spam. They took this one out of this one, but I just like it because there's too much spam. I wonder if I should play this for you. I'm going to in the show. Oh, come here. I need to do something here first. I need to double check. I should stop sharing my screen. Share my screen. I didn't know if I made sure if I clicked that. Okay, so I'm now sharing my screen again. Still recording, I believe. Yep. No, I don't want that. Dang it. Sorry about this. I shared the wrong screen. Go back to here. I want this. Okay, I think that's working. I got this a little bit screwed up. Sorry, folks. One moment. Technical difficulties. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Make sure I click on that. Click on desktop. And here we go. All right. So this is about spam. And if you're a Monty Python fan, you like this. I may not pay the whole thing. But you have to have a break every now and again, right? So my lecture is kind of boring. Hopefully not too boring. Oh! Oh no! Well, it is probably copyright laws. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. This is one in Portuguese. So let me see. Nope. Okay. Well, they.
Morning. Morning. What you got then?
Well, there's egg and bacon, egg, sausage and bacon, egg and spam, egg, bacon and spam, egg, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, egg, spam, bacon and spam, spam, egg and spam, spam, baked beans, spam and spam. Oh, lobster thermidor, crevettes with Mornay sauce, garnished with truffle pate brandy and a fried egg on top and spam. Have you got anything without spam in it? Well, spam, egg, sausage and spam. It's not got much spam in it. I don't want any spam.
Why can't you have egg, bacon, spam and sausage?
That's got spam in it.
Not as much as spam, egg, sausage and spam.
Look, could I have egg, bacon, spam and sausage without the spam? What do you mean? I don't like spam. Spam. Can't have egg, bacon, spam and sausage without the spam. Why not? No, it wouldn't be egg, bacon, spam and sausage, would it? I don't like spam.
Well, don't make a fuss, dear. I'll have your spam. I love it. I'm having spam, spam, baked beans, spam and spam.
Baked beans off.
Well, can I have spam instead?
You mean spam.
Don't know if you're a Monty Python fan, but if you aren't, you should be. There you go. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Go back to here. So, spam. That's where spam came from. Spam for like trashy email came from that skit, as a matter of fact. So again, mind of a satisficer. Stick with your decision. Realistic expectations. And have an attitude of gratitude. So language, phonemes, basic units of language. So b, s, u, all this is a phoneme. phoneme, PH, is actually the same phoneme as F. So why do we have two? It's just not an F. Don't know. English has like 40 some odd, there's 26 letters and 40 some odd phonemes. So we don't have a letter for each phoneme. Like TH, it's not a phoneme. C, the letter C has no phoneme of its own. It's either a K sound or an S sound. It's the third letter of the alphabet. It doesn't have a sound of its own. I think it should have this sound, ch, right? Ch. So chair would be spelled C-A-I-R. Why not? It's arbitrary, right? It's arbitrary. Whatever the sound is, we put it to it. So, but it's kind of cool. Telegraphic speech. Yeah. There's a few special things here. Where are we? I want to make sure that you catch them. A lot of times people don't. Here we are. So telegraphic, few rudimentary sentences convey logical syntax, wealth of information. So more sticks. Just a few words make a lot, small me up. Overgeneralization, this is development. This irregular verbs, right? Irregular verbs, run as opposed to ran. Let's see. This is just kind of a crazy way of lining it up. Units of language. This is how we talk. Vocal cords, nasal cavity, etc. This is how we make sounds. What do you mean? When you have a language, you don't really pause between words. What do you mean? That's what do you mean? That's you have a pause there. But if we even have small pauses between words, we sound funny, don't you think? So the problem with learning new languages is they don't pause between words either, so we can't really tell what the heck they're saying. And there's a good old Broca's area again. Here we have the Broca's and Wernicke's, understands sound. Whoop, go back. Oh, no, did I lose my thing again? Bringing back my pen. Wernicke's and Broca's. Wernicke's understands, Broca's produces. Go away. Here we are. Broca's has expressive aphasia. They can't say the words. Tan, and they know they can't. You know, Wernicke's actually can say the words, but they just don't make any sense. Let me, while I'm here, how are we doing on time here? I'm going to see if I can find this Wernicke's aphasia for you. And show, discard that, because it's pretty interesting. Over here, come on, search. Yeah, this guy. Let's just watch this. This is a Wernicke's aphasia. So fluent.
Hi, Byron. How are you?
I'm happy. Are you pretty? You look good.
What are you doing today?
We stayed with the water over here at the moment and talk with the people for them over there. They're diving for them at the moment. They'll save in the moment. He'll have water very soon for him. With luck for him.
So we're on a cruise and we're about to
We
get to
will store it
Juneau.
right here and they'll save their hands right there for them.
And what were we just doing with the iPad?
Right at the moment, they don't show a darn thing.
With the iPad that we were doing. Like here?
I'd like my change for me and change hands for me. It would happen. I would talk with Donna sometimes. We're out with them. Other people are working with them. I'm very happy with them.
Good.
This girl was very good and happy. And I play golf and hit other trees. We play out with the hands. We save a lot of hands on hold for for us, other hands. I don't know what you get, but I talk with a lot of hand for him. Sometime. Am I talk of any more to saying?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I hope the world lasts for you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Isn't that interesting? I hope the world lasts for you. That's like one of the best blessings I can think of right there. So that's Wernicke's. And so here, that's where he had to, let me go back to get the slideshow, current slide. So he had a damage there, and he could talk. It just didn't make any sense. So is there deep structure of learning with the implicit meaning of sentences, language acquisition from Chomsky? There's a sentence that like this is one of the Facebook things. It's actually kind of fun. That depending on how you phrase it, how you emphasize the word, it means a different thing every time. So I never said she stole my money. 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 Same sentence, different meanings altogether. That's the deep structure versus the surface. We have a language acquisition device. Chomsky came up with that idea. Great guy, one of the smartest men alive, I think. But it's kind of a funny term. Interestingly enough, babies who are deaf babble with their hands. And babies babble, right? They start to babble. And so people, they babble with their hands. Isn't that interesting? Here's a little baby who's deaf who's already starting to babble. That's really interesting. When you think about it, of course they do. Of course they do. And here's Creole. Creole evolves from mixed languages in Suriname. You'll read in classified Blackboard, over 10 languages are spoken in Suriname. Dutch, but also Chinese, Hindi, Javanese, and half original Creoles, among them Saran Tongo, Suriname tongue. Again, I'm not going to turn these on. They're pretty interesting. They have, especially the bonobo one. I'd really encourage you to watch that bonobo one. It's really, really, really interesting. Let's see, they refer to, Kanzi. Now, this is on page 317. They talked about Kanzi. So verbal commands, actually got quite a few. So I encourage you to watch Susan Savage's Rumbag on apes that write the bonobos. Really interesting. So reading, phonics. We need to learn how to read. Phonics is not good because we do not have a phonetic language. There used to be a math teacher at Helena College, Viktor Suchinov, who's from Russia, and he there's no spelling bees in Russian because one sound has one letter. It's a phonetic language. English is not. That's why we have spelling bees, and people can be such bad spellers. So you learn phonics or the whole language. Whole language is you basically learn it all kind of at once, how to do language. They both should be in place. All right, so let's see. Where are we going here? We're on intelligence. Ability to use knowledge, make decisions, events, etc. Mental age and IQ. IQ now is actually not done with so you make these stories. This is how you measure IQ. How do they go into shape? Which goes first? How do you put that together to make a bird? And how you line those up. So this is actually not used for intellectual disability anymore. It does have. It's actually turn to my textbook of psychiatry, which is what you'll do if you take my intro or my fundamentals of abnormal psychology. So intellectual disability is no longer called mental retardation. It's intellectual disability. Instead of looking at just IQ, it used to be IQ here and below was developmental disability. It's not now. I mean, that's part of the conceptual academic domain. So memory, language, reading, writing, math, etc., practical knowledge, problem solving. Social domain is another one, though. Being aware of others, their feelings, empathy, interpersonal communication skills, social judgments. Practical, how to do stuff. How do you take care of yourself, have jobs, manage your money. All those are now part of what goes into intellectual disability, which is the term that's used now is intellectual disability, which makes a lot more sense, actually. I'll put that right later. So what is intelligence? It's kind of a weird thing, really, to get your hand on what intelligence is. So there's this idea of G, little g, that you have just you're generally smart, then you have all these other sort of sub-Gs. Writing, math, problem solving, drawing. So you have all these different abilities within the overall G. Apparently, if you have a lower G, you'll die earlier. but they do allow you to adapt to the environment. Let's see. Fluid versus crystallized intelligence. Fluid is basically you can deal with stuff now. Crystallized is you have knowledge that you gain through experience. It kind of gets, I like to think of it as like little crystallized neurons in your brain, right? Kind of the stuff kind of crystallized of stuff you learned. You mean it's like long-term potentiation. Remember the little neurons, that's the thing, and the little Doogie Mouse and all that kind of stuff, and NMDA from learning memory. I guess it's memory last chapter. So that's like crystallized. It's a long-acting. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's been a long day. Sorry. Potentiation, long-term potentiation, LTP. The long-term potentiation results in crystallized. Long-term potentiation results in crystallized intelligence, because it's more or less the same thing, actually. Gardner has all these multiple intelligences, various ones. So he came up with like people are really good musicians, they can visualize things well, good at math, good at bodily, et cetera, et cetera. Now, these are all the different types of intelligence that this guy Gardner came up with. So it makes some sense. It's not just book smarts or whatever. Existential, I throw in meaning of life. Does life have meaning? Yeah, it does, probably. And just some more. All this is basically different ways people have conceptualized intelligence. Okay, that's kind of the overview. Sternberg, emotional intelligence is how to manage, recognize your emotions, use them to guide you, kind of not let them guide you, be guided by them, use them to guide yourself as opposed to having them rule you. That's the idea. Mental processing is more intelligence. Can you pump things out quickly? Processing. Do you have to have bigger brains in order to have intelligence? Not really, actually, not really. Savant, minimal intellectual capacities. This is savant. Let's see. This is going to get rid of that. This is savant. Oftentimes they'll have intellectual disability or autism spectrum disorder, actually. And you can take one look at a city and then draw it out. That's be kind of a cool thing to be able to do, I think. Okay, where are we here? Actually, I kind of skipped over these, huh? So this is which is longer, which side is longer, A or B. Quickly, then by a mask. This is the same one with masks, pill, tree, lock, etc. And is there genetics? Of course there is. There's genetics to everything. It's just not always genetics. So here's the genetically related, environmentally related in both. So siblings, this is kind of a funny slide. Basically what it's showing is that if you're, it's one of these funny slides, monozygotic twins, dizygotic twins, et cetera, et cetera. So basically it shows that there's some genetic component. This one only has one. They forgot the other one over here. One, I guess, monozygotic. No. Next slide that doesn't really show you much. So, and remember, look at the correlations here, right? So that's not very high. I mean, that one's pretty correlated, but these ones, monozygotic and dizygotic, they're not the rest of them are not really. Lots of environmental stuff, though. This is all the environmental, social determinants of health and disease. Prenatal factors are, were they exposed to alcohol or drugs in utero? Social class, lower socioeconomic tend to have a harder time, but mainly because their environment doesn't help them, right? So, and their, excuse me, environment, access to food, those sort of things, are also influence education or intelligence. Your views on education. Remember epigenetics from before? Well, this is kind of another application for that. If you view education as sort of worthless, you're not going to pass that along, education along, and sure enough, that gets passed from generation to generation. Social class and socioeconomic status, those aren't exactly the same. Breastfeeding actually improves intelligence. It's kind of, again, social determinant. People who are poorer tend to have to work more, tend to not breastfeed as much, therefore have less intelligence because breastfeeding helps that, and around it goes. People who are better off tend to breastfeed, become more intelligent because breastfeeding helps that, and sure enough, they continue to be better off. So that's some of the social determinants of health. Enriched environments, you want to have just enough to make sure that babies' brains develop well and make the good connections and all that kind of stuff. In group, yeah, I don't like these. These are differences in groups. I haven't had a bell curve yet for a while. There's one bell curve. Make the next blue bell curve. And make the point using purple. So, you might say between this point and this point, P equals 0.05, say, right? So there's a significant difference between those two. And red can be boys, blue can be girls or something. Or red can be Republicans, blue can be Democrats, whatever, it doesn't matter. Problem is, what do you do for this person? Okay, are they smarter or dumber? So you can't tell. This is those kind of bell curves. Sure, they make press and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really matter. Stereotype threat. This is if you tell people that whatever they are doesn't do well, then they sure enough they don't do well. Here we are. So I'm sort of too much is used with black and white, and African American and Caucasian. I mean, black and white makes it sound like a black and white problem. It's not a black and white problem. It's definitely adjusted the difficulty. But there's a lot of those. And if you talk about they exist, stereotype threats exist, they go away. They perform better on a math test. So there's a cool study because there's a stereotype that Asians are good at math and a stereotype that females are not good at math. So what they did is they got female Asians, right, and would remind some that females are not good at math. Sure enough, they didn't do as well at math. The other told that Asians are good at math, and sure enough, they did better at math. So even the thinking about this stuff will change your performance, which is really pretty wild. All right, I think we're getting down there. And so this is, again, I probably should just cross out this whole thing, but there are some causes to the intellectual disability. Down syndrome, trisomy 21, and Fragile X, where the X chromosome is actually literally fragile. There's a bunch of other ones too. Okay, I think that's the end of the talk. Let's discard the ink annotations. Go back to here. And stop sharing my screen. This background, by the way, it's top of the world. It's one of the South Hills trails. So I think it's a really pretty backdrop to have. Okay, I'm going to stop recording and check out. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.